Hey guys, this is Brad with Hudson Incorporated. So today we're going to go over setting up our AutoTrac turn automation. If you saw in my earlier video how to set up an interior passable boundary, these will kind of tie together. So we're going to use the same field I used in that video, and you can see I've got my exterior boundary set up on there and my interior passable boundary. And there's going to be a few things here that we need to have set up to run AutoTrac turn automation. So one of the first ones that I like to set up is make sure that our transmission is in auto mode, so it'll control that for us. To do all that, we can go ahead and jump into menu. We can go to transmission. You can see it's in manual right now. I'm going to go ahead and let it do full auto control for me. So we just do that, exit out of that screen, exit out of this one. And then I've created a shortcut key at the bottom, just down here for AutoTrac turn automation, and also for ATTA. Now, in order for all these to work, we need to make sure that ATTA is on, our AutoTrac guidance is on, and our turn automation is on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn ATTA on. My AutoTrac's already set up. So if we jump into the AutoTrac turn automation, you can see right now it's off. We have a few settings over here. So we can set the aggressiveness of our turning pattern, and you can see it sets it up for us. So if we lessen the aggressiveness, we get more of a light bulb turn effect. And if we increase the aggressiveness, it'll be a quicker, shallower turn. So you'll have to play with that depending on the equipment that you have. But I would leave it right at the base just to start with, and we'll make our adjustments as we go. So go ahead and exit out of this. The next one is our start turn. We can set this up so the dotted lines are that interior passable boundary. If we want to start the turn past the line, we can set it up that way, or before. So if we click that, it shows us, right? So there's our interior passable boundary. If we want to start the turn a foot before it and so on, we can do that. Or we can start the turn after it. So again, that'll be a little bit of adjustments in the field as you set it up. But we're going to go ahead and leave it at 0 just for now. The next one down is your max turning speed. So if we click that, you can increase and decrease how fast you want your implement and tractor to make the turn itself. So if you're doing 7-8 mile an hour in the actual field, but you only want to turn at 5, that's all I have it set up. That way it doesn't get too crazy on us. So we're going to leave that alone as well. And just like I talked about, we have our max infield speed. This will limit how fast we want the tractor to move inside of the field. I have mine set for 10 right now. Again, this is all dependent on what you're doing. So go ahead and exit out of that screen. So now we can turn this on. You can see right now I have an error detected, my machine speed automation fault. That's set up because I actually have the tractor off right now. But if we go ahead and click this, it'll actually tell us everything that we're missing. So right now we're missing headland sequences, which we will set up here in a minute. And then, like I said, the machine speed automation part. Now, if I had the tractor running and I pulled it out of park, that would actually all check mark off good. So what we can do is we'll go back up, exit out. Now let's set up our triggered sequences. So you can see this top one is for when we enter into the headland, and then the bottom is for when we exit out of the headland. So keep that in mind when you're setting these up. So right now I have no sequences, so we'll go ahead and click new sequence, and then we're going to click add step. So one of the things I'd like it to do, we're going to do the max engine speed, and then I have engine speed 1 set up for 5 mile an hour. So we'll go ahead and do that, and I'll tell it I want it to do it right as we hit the interior passable boundary. So we'll leave that at 0 feet. And with the next step that I want to add into this one is I want my SCV1 function to happen. So this one's going to be for entering into the headland. So we're going to want our cylinders to extend to pick up the ripper out of the ground. So we'll go ahead and choose extend. And we're going to say, just for video's sake, that I don't want that to happen until we are 5 feet past the interior passable boundary. Now we can also make that happen before. Again, little this will be dependent on what you'd like to have done, and as we run through the field we may have to make changes on the fly. That way everything looks nice out there. But we're going to leave it right here for now. Now that's the only two we really need to set up on this 2720. You can put many sequences and steps in there if you'd like, depending on what you're doing, but that's all we need for today. So if we click next, I can go ahead and say, I can save this as 27, whoops, 2720, we'll headland, we'll call it enter. That way we know what that sequence setup is. All right, so we'll save it that way, and it'll save it for us. We'll say okay. So we can see that's for entering the headland, and we'll do the same setup for when we're exiting. So now here's the one we just made, but we want the other sequence set up. So we'll do another one. And again, we'll do max engine speed, and we can do, I have 7 miles an hour on engine set speed 2, because that's what I want to run in the field. I'm going to leave that at 0 again. And then we'll add our SCV function. So it's SCV1. We want to retract on this one. That way we put our tool into the ground. And I want this to start, we're going to say -5 feet. So it'll start 5 feet before I pass that interior boundary. And again, we can mess with that when we get to the field. So just like before, I'm going to call it as 20. Whoops. Keep doing that. 20. Headland. And we'll call it exit. We can hit OK there. We'll save it. And now we have our 2 sequences set up. So then we'll go ahead and, whoops, we'll exit out. And now we should all be set. Now, again, I'm not out in the field. That's why we're getting an error. But that's pretty much all we need to do for setting up your sequencing and your AutoTrac turn automation. If we were out in the field, we'd go ahead and take off. And the one thing to remember is you need to hit your AutoTrac resume button twice. The first one is to grab your guidance line. The second press is to set up that speed automation that we have in our sequencing. That way we get 5 miles an hour in the headlands, and we get our 7 miles an hour outside the headlands. So as you can see, not too difficult to set up our ATTA. If you guys have any questions, give us a call. Appreciate it, and good luck out there.